Hey there, thanks for tuning into DuckBricks. I'm Chris, and welcome to another episode of Ninjago Retold, the show where I tell the entire story of LEGO Ninjago in chronological order, from the beginning to the end, aka from the pilots all the way to Crystalized. We first kicked things off with the prologue, which I highly recommend you watch first, and went all the way up to episode 11, covering season 8 of the TV show, Sons of Garmadon. And now that left us on a massive cliffhanger, so it's time to move into episode 12, Hunted, which continues the Oni trilogy, which is the 3-part storyline that started with Sons of Garmadon and will end next episode with March of the Oni, and see what our ninja are up to in the First Realm, what Lloyd is doing in the Resistance of Ninjago City, and how much power Garmadon is going to be able to take this season. And so, without further ado, let's jump up, kick back, whip around, and spin, and roll that intro.
Previously on Ninjago Retold, Return of the Dark Lord. After idolizing the evil Oni side of Lord Garmadon her entire life, the Jade Princess Harumi leads the Sons of Garmadon biker gang in a gambit to resurrect Lloyd's father, but leave no light left in him. As the deceptive princess won the hearts of the ninja and tricked Lloyd into falling in love, her minion sees the 3 masks of the ancient Oni warlords, uniting them in a ceremony to bring back the King of Shadows. In a deadly battle with his father, Lloyd is utterly defeated, losing his powers and watching his friends seemingly die at the hands of his father's new weapon, the Oni Titan. But secretly, with the help of turncoat Oni Mistake, the 4 original ninja and Wu had been transported to the First Realm, the realm of Oni and Dragon. And now, both teams of heroes find themselves hunted and on the run. This is Ninjago Retold.
You're a long way from finding a ninja in these parts, old man.
Lloyd is the Green Ninja.
I am the ultimate Spinjitzu master!
Support me, friends, for one last time.
The new Serpentine War has just begun.
My master has arrived.
Guess it's true. The greatest love stories do always end in tragedy.
Maybe I'm departed.
Control time! Control everything! I have no son.
I cannot fight you, but I can resist you. Endings will always come. All we can do is fight to make them good ones. Revenge!
Protect those who cannot protect themselves.
You were programmed by the game to lose, but you don't have to.
I want you to promise me that you will always stand up to those who are cruel.
We are the keepers of the amulet.
I'm Mia. I am the sea. We are one.
There will be peace in the dark.
Episode 12, Hunted. Chapter 1, A New Emperor. Ninjago City had fallen. Only a week had passed since the takeover of Emperor Garmadon, and the Sons of Garmadon patrolled the streets, rounding up any known allies of the ninja and locking them away in Cryptarium, like Ronin and the former police commissioner. As Dareth snuck past biker gang patrols to deliver food to the remnants of the ninja forces, he caught up with Lloyd, Nia, Misako, and Pixel, the only heroes left in Ninjago City. Believing his friends were dead and there was no hope, Lloyd succumbed to sorrow and frustration, failing in his training against Samurai X. Until Nia reminded him that he was not the only one who lost something, and despite the fact that she believed her brother and boyfriend were dead, she would never give up and always keep fighting. A statement that did little to persuade Lloyd, who sunk deeper into depression. Without his powers or most of his team, Lloyd saw little use in fighting against the overwhelming forces of evil, all while Garmadon claimed a throne atop the ruins of Borg Tower, overseeing the city from above. As Harumi, Ultraviolet, and Kilo bowed to their emperor, he demanded they locate and capture the last remnants of the ninja, and most importantly, his son, Lloyd. Promising the Dark Emperor that her servant, the silent ninjroid Mr. E, would get the job done, Harumi sent her deadly warrior to lead a convoy of troops to scour the streets, and would not stop until Lloyd and his friends were captured. Elsewhere, in the desolate realm of Oni and Dragon, Kai, Jay, Zane, Cole, and Wu had been stranded for a week, and the situation was growing dire. Unbeknownst to the ninja, years ago, a migrating group of dragon hunters had taken up residence in the First Realm, subjecting the noble creatures to work their furnaces and eating the rest. Drawing strict territory lines between their encampments and known Oni fortresses, these hunters had even managed to capture and kill the ninja's Ultra Dragon, which had migrated to the First Realm after the events of the final battle, and transformed its skulls into a makeshift throne for their ruler, Iron Baron. And as Cole departed with Wu to hunt for food, the rest of the ninja were unaware that they were being watched by these hunters, and were in imminent danger. As the effects of the reversal blade wore off, Wu, now a child, was petulant and immature, having forgotten the memories of his old life, and now needed his own lessons to mature into the sensei he was meant to be. Promising to take care of him and taking him in as a pseudo-son, Cole ventured out into the wilderness with Wu in his protection, encountering a baby lightning dragon to share food, which was in turn guarded by the fearsome Stormbringer, adult dragon of lightning which chased the pair into an abandoned cave. And to their horror, Cole and Wu came face to face with a massive mural depicting the hunting and killing of dragons, and realized that they were not alone in this realm. Back at the wreckage of the Bounty, Kai, Zane, and Jay barely managed to scrap together a radio, only to pick up communications chatter from other beings in the realm, and they soon realized an ambush was imminent. Escaping into the fog, the three ninja were quickly chained and dragged away, leaving only Cole and Wu separated and free from the group. And in the realm of Ninjago, Lloyd and his group sprinted through the city streets, forced to abandon their hideout as Mr. E and Kilo raced through the streets, checking every building and door. As the heroes came upon the wreckage of the Bounty and shared a moment of sorrow together, Lloyd realized that half the Bounty was missing, and there was a chance that his friends had not been killed, but instead been transported somewhere else. Rallying together with a renewed sense of hope and courage, Lloyd, Nia, and the others prepared to flee, just as the Sons of Garmadon boxed them in, and all seemed lost, until, out of nowhere, a massive metal fist punched Mr. E backwards, and Karloff, Master of Metal, burst onto the scene, leading a group of remaining Elemental Masters as the ninja's old allies fought the Sons of Garmadon, Skylar showing up in a garbage truck to facilitate their escape. As the Masters of Speed and Shadow distracted the biker gang, Lloyd and his friends made their way to the secret hideout of the Elemental Masters, and realized the mysterious Mistake had summoned them. And in the First Realm, Cole and Wu returned to the campground to find their friends gone, and tire tracks all around them. Realizing the others had been captured, the two rushed to follow the tracks, and as they traveled, their captive comrades were brought to the throne of the Iron Baron, who seemed convinced they were Oni in disguise. Demanding that these Oni pretenders be thrown in the pit with their captive Earth Dragon slab, Iron Baron kept a keen eye on these intruders, for he himself had not encountered an Oni in his lifetime. And despite the stories he told to his minions of fighting off hordes of Oni single-handedly, Iron Baron was just as ignorant as the rest of the dragon hunters as to the true nature of the Bringers of Darkness. As Kai, Zane, and Jay were paraded around the Dead's End, post-apocalyptic desert outpost of the Dragon Hunters, they encountered a menagerie of pale, vicious hunters, like the spider-like Daddy No-Legs, the cyborg Arcade, and the deranged Chew-Toy, who introduced himself to the ninja as an entertainer and shackled them to the center pit. And as the ninja witnessed dragons being exploited and forced to work for the hunters or be eaten, they grew determined to stop these barbaric practices. All while Cole and Wu managed to slip in, Cole disguised yet again as Rocky Dangerbuff as they made their way through the cheering crowd in the arena. Back in Ninjago, what remained of the Elemental Masters assembled in a garbage depot. Leading the charge was Skylar, Master of Amber, accompanied by Shade, Master of Shadow, Tox, Master of Poison, Nero, Master of Mind, Griffin Turner, Master of Speed, Pillman, Master of Light, and Karloff, Master of Metal. As Lloyd and the others reunited with this resistance force, a plan began to form to strike back at Garmadon and his gang of bikers, and Mistake promised to tell them what happened to their missing friends. Elsewhere, atop Borg Tower, Mr. E reported to Garmadon as Harumi announced that with the resurgence of the Elemental Masters, they had failed to capture Lloyd. Furious at their failure, Garmadon lashed out, fists burning with crackling purple fire as he seized Mr. E, ripping the Ninjroid limb to limb and utterly demolishing the once faithful servant, threatening to do the same to Harumi the next time she failed him. And as the princess and her followers began to realize they may have made a terrible mistake in bringing back such a powerful evil, Lloyd and Mistake spoke over tea, the wise Oni telling the Green Ninja that despite his lack of powers and team, it was now his responsibility to endure and lead a new team through these dark times. And in the first realm, the show was about to begin. Horns blared as a deafening bellow shook the ground, and the Earth Dragon slab leapt from its cage, enraged at the presence of one with Oni blood among them. For Wu was part Oni and part dragon, and the beast could sense his Oni blood. Still trying to hide their elemental powers in fear of being exploited by the dragon hunters, Kai, Zane, and Jay did their best to hold off the encroaching beast. But when all else failed, they were forced to use their abilities, encasing the dragon in solid ice and shocking the spectators who had never seen such powers. But as the three ninjas swore to free themselves, Iron Baron called out for his champion, and from the darkness, leaping down into the pit, the hulking Heavy Metal joined the fray. Wielding a mysterious sword that absorbed all the ninjas' elemental attacks, Heavy Metal menaced the ninja, expertly weaving element-suppressing chain around each hero, until all three ninja were captured once again. And with the situation dire, Cole and Wu would be forced to think of another plan, or risk being revealed themselves. Chapter 2: Rise of the Resistance. In the ruins of Ninjago City, Ultraviolet's grating television program blared from every screen, promising loyal citizens money in exchange for turning in resistance sympathizers and allies. With many of the other elemental masters, Ronin, and the police force all rounded up in this ultra hunt, Lloyd's list of allies was growing thin. The Serpentine had retreated underground, disgusted with the surface world after the Vermilion incursion, and the only other elemental masters uncaptured, like Camille, Master of Form, were not on their side. As Nia toiled day and night to construct an armored battle wagon to retaliate against Garmadon, Mistake encouraged Lloyd to learn and grow as a leader, pitting Dareth against Karloff and asking the Green Ninja to fight with his words, not with his fists, and lead his friend to victory against an overwhelming foe. Explaining that as others inspire him, he would gain the strength to inspire others, Mistake announced their first mission as a united resistance, to hack Ninjago City's airwaves and encourage the common folk to rise up and unite against Garmadon and his forces. And as Lloyd assembled a resistance strike team to accomplish this task, the rest of the ninja found themselves in an equally desperate situation in the first realm. Kai, Jay, and Zane were imprisoned in the massive Dieselknot battlecraft, Iron Baron announcing that their elemental powers would serve as bait for the dragons in that evening during their nightly hunt. As Cole and Wu remained disguised among the hunter ranks, sneaking in with the group to attempt to free their comrades, the dragon hunters raced off to secure their next meal. Day turned to night as the ramshackle vehicles, speeders, and helicopters rattled off to the barren fields, and as the hunters stopped to set up camp and prepare for their dragon quarry, Cole and Wu sat around the fire and heard the tales and stories of the hunters. Some said that Heavy Metal's mysterious dragon blade was made from a bone of the firstborn dragon herself, the first dragon in existence, wielder of all elemental powers. Others claimed that a ferocious battle with Firstborn resulted in Iron Baron losing his leg and his hand. And others still claimed that Heavy Metal had ripped a bone from this mother of all dragons herself, making them the right hand of Iron Baron and his most fearsome warrior. But no matter what the story was, all the hunters could agree. Firstborn was the greatest catch of all, and Iron Baron had dedicated his life to hunting and killing this great beast. Before long, with the three captured ninja emitting elemental power atop a beacon, a curious wind dragon had approached the camp, and the hunt was on. Machines roared to life as engines spat fire and smoke. The hunters chased the majestic dragon of wind across the dreary landscape, firing endless grapples, hooks, and chains at the beast as it struggled to break free. And just as the wind dragon was about to escape, Heavy Metal lunged into the battle, sprinting across a tethered chain and leaping onto the dragon's back, strangling the beast with their bare hands and a chain. And in a climactic final showdown, the wind dragon reared upwards, fighting to break free, and at last plummeted to the ground to the cheers of the barbaric hunters. Back in Ninjago City, Lloyd led Skylar, Shade, Paleman, Neuro, and Griffin Turner in a strike on Borg Tower, which had been overtaken by the Sons of Garmadon. Using all their elemental powers and skills, Neuro planted a suggestion in Kilo's mind to abandon his post to relax at the bar, while Turner sped in and cleared a path for his allies. As the resistance force crept up the floors of the tower, making their way to the radio room, they barely managed to stay out of Harumi's sight before coming face to face with Emperor Garmadon himself. In a last-minute gambit, Skylar placed her hands on Shade and Paleman, combining the elemental powers of light and shadow to create an invisible force field around her allies, shielding not only herself, but the entire team from the Dark Emperor's gaze. And with the crisis averted, the heroes broke into the recording room, dispatching Ultraviolet, and handing over the airwaves to Lloyd. The entire city waited and watched. The spotlight was on Lloyd to deliver the speech of a lifetime. Barricading the door as a furious Harumi screamed and ranted outside, Lloyd was initially overwhelmed with sorrow and despair, seeing a recording of his fight with Garmadon on a monitor, until he finally found the inner steel within himself to stand up and be a symbol of freedom to the people of Ninjago. Begging the citizens to be brave and stand up to Garmadon, Lloyd implored his people to join the resistance, find their power, and fight back. While he may no longer have elemental power, Lloyd could still call upon the power of the people, calling them to rise up and take back their city. Buildings may fall, but this wasn't the first time their city had faced ruin, and Ninjago's people would rise. As Lloyd directly addressed his father, he stated that fighting the Green Ninja may make him feel powerful, but the real power was in the people, and their resistance would never quit. With the people of Ninjago now rallied with a renewed faith in Lloyd and the resistance, their job was done, and the heroes barely escaped from the tower just as Harumi burst in, only to give away the location of their secret hideout and be seen fleeing the scene in garbage trucks. But before Harumi could make a move, she was summoned by her emperor, and Garmadon was furious that his son's message had made it out. Seizing the Jade Princess with his telekinetic powers, Garmadon began to slowly squeeze, preparing to rip her body apart the same way he did Mr. Ease, and stating that if she thought her honor would win a special place in his heart, she was mistaken, for he had no heart. As Harumi screamed and writhed in midair, she barely managed to inform Garmadon that she knew where the resistance was hiding, and if he allowed her to pursue the lead, they could capture the entire force at once. To which Garmadon gave her one and only one final chance. And as Lloyd and his team celebrated at their headquarters, they were unaware that a siege was coming, and the Sons of Garmadon were on their way. Back in the First Realm, Jay thought back to when he first met Wu years ago, inspired by the wingsuit glider he had attempted to make as he encouraged the undercover Cole to build a fake firstborn dragon from metal, wood, and bone to trick the hunters into fleeing. Over the course of several days, Cole and Wu toiled endlessly to make this desperate plan a reality, all while the three other ninja continued to be used as bait for the dragons, pawns in the scheme of survival in this desolate landscape. At last, after some help from the captured ninja, Cole and Wu's mechanical dragon was complete, and the pair used it to blast towards the Dead's End encampment, terrifying Iron Baron and the hunters, who believed it was the true firstborn dragon after witnessing it use multiple elements. But when Iron Baron managed to land a harpoon shot on its tail rudder, sending the contraption plummeting to the ground, he realized that he had been deceived. Preparing to get rid of the captured ninja once and for all, the hunters were stopped only by the sound of a deafening roar on the horizon. For in the distance, bathed in moonlight, the real firstborn dragon had arrived to lay waste to their land with the might of her vengeance. Blasting shockwaves of earth, lightning, fire, ice, wind, and all the elements, the massive, legendary mother of all dragons soared effortlessly through the sky, dodging their feeble attacks and demonstrating the true power of the dragons. And in the commotion, the ninja managed to break free, Kai connecting with the dragon to break its chains and free the rest of the captured beasts. Soaring off into the moonlight, the ninja fled from the camp, Iron Baron now humiliated, furious, and determined to hunt down the ninja and their allies. And in the realm of Ninjago, Lloyd and his crew found themselves hunted in turn by the deadly biker gang, who had arrived en masse at their garbage depot to destroy the Green Ninja and his resistance once and for all. Chapter 3 Pursuit of Faith. Racing through the streets and rappelling down on ropes, the Sons of Garmadon ambushed the Resistance base, taking Lloyd, Nia, and their allies by surprise as the heroes battled the overwhelming might of the biker gang's forces. As Misako, Pixel, and Skylar rallied to buy Lloyd time to escape, the Elemental Masters used all their powers to fight back, but were eventually overwhelmed by the united forces of the Sons of Garmadon. With most of the allies restrained and taken away to Cryptarium Prison, only Nia, Lloyd, Skylar, and Dareth managed to escape in their tank, Pixel swooping up in her Samurai X mech to confront Garmadon himself and let her friends escape. As the Oni Titans stomped through the streets, rocking the very ground with every footstep, Garmadon stood perched atop a building, concentrating as he funneled his power and might into controlling this Colossus, chasing his son and the remnants of the Resistance through the streets as he prepared to crush their tank and kill them instantly. But before Garmadon could finish the job, Lloyd closed his eyes and connected with his father, begging him to spare his life. To which Garmadon showed the first sign of hesitation since his resurrection, old self bleeding in as he stood conflicted on the rooftop, victory in his grasp. But as he faltered, enough time was bought for Pixel to swoop in with her samurai mech, peppering Garmadon with energy blasts as he diverted his attacks to the flying mech, downing Pixel and capturing the Ninjoid, but allowing Lloyd and the others to free. And as Garmadon watched his son escape, a look of sadness and regret on his face, he was unaware that Harumi was watching him, and she was beginning to worry that Lloyd would be his undoing. In the realm of Oni and Dragon, Wu slept and he dreamed. A dream of a time long past when all was right with the world. He and Garmadon had been out fishing with the first Spinjitzu master, their father, who urged his children to have faith, even when all seems impossible. Waking up with a start, Wu realized he had grown into a teenager overnight, and his memories were starting to return to him, hazy and out of order. But before the ninja could ask him more, they were interrupted by the sound of an approaching speeder engine, for the fearsome warrior Heavy Metal had tracked them down. Having overheard that Wu was the son of the first Spinjitzu master, Heavy Metal demanded that the ninja explain what this meant and if this was true. And, after Wu admitted his backstory, the metal-clad warrior removed her hat, armor, and mask, revealing that she was a woman in disguise, and had always believed the Spinjitzu master would return to the realm to bring peace and harmony. Trusting in Wu and the ninja, Heavy Metal revealed her real name was Faith, and she explained that she was determined to locate the missing golden dragon armor, once worn by the first Spinjitzu master himself, to control Firstborn and all the dragons and end the endless hunt, bringing peace to the realm to unite against the darkness of the Oni. As Faith implored Wu to lead them to the dragon armor, Wu realized that he was burdened with a great responsibility, and lied, saying that he knew the location, and began leading them into the unknown. Night fell on the docks of Ninjago City, as Lloyd, Nia, Dareth, and Skylar sheltered in the rundown areas of the old city. Disguised as fishermen and burning their clothes to protect themselves from getting discovered, the 4 remaining Resistance operatives watched as Gale Gossip announced the rest of the Resistance had been rounded up and imprisoned on TV, beaten and defeated. As the civilians living in the docks protected and fed the wounded heroes, all hope seemed lost, until a mysterious rat approached the group, and to their disbelief, it began to speak, revealing herself as the shape-shifting Oni Mistake, who finally unveiled her true identity to Lloyd and the rest of the allies. Telling the tale of the 3 Oni warlords who invaded Ninjago, Mistake explained that she had been won over by the beauty of the realm, siding with the first Spinjitzu master and beating back her Oni kin. Likewise, in the first realm, Faith traveled alongside the ninja, telling her own interpretation of the ancient legend, how the Spinjitzu master had forged the dragon armor to control Firstborn, who led all the dragons united in a battle against the Oni, a battle that raged on even after the Spinjitzu master left to vanquish Wojira in Ninjago, until, for some reason, all the Oni had mysteriously disappeared. Whether these bringers of darkness had been killed off or simply traveled someplace else was unknown to the dragon hunters, who had arrived far after these initial conflicts of legend. But Faith was interrupted when, in the distance, they spotted more dragon hunter craft, with the spider-like Daddy No-Legs and Muzzle approaching the group. Initially pretending that she had taken the ninja hostage, Faith tried to bargain with her fellow hunters, who saw through the ruse and had to be defeated in a brief skirmish. but now her betrayal had been revealed to the hunters, and time was running out. In a matter of hours, Iron Baron encountered his tied and bound forces, who explained that Heavy Metal was plotting against him. And the furious tyrant tasked his new right hand, the ambitious Jetjack, to hunt them down herself and bring both the ninja and Heavy Metal to him. Back in Ninjago, the Sons of Garmadon patrolled the docks and the city streets, and in Cryptarium Prison, the prisoners and remnants of the resistance commiserated with each other, while Misako's faith held strong that her son would prevail, and they would all be liberated soon. And in Borg Tower, Garmadon's forces were confused and aimless, for their emperor had vanished after letting his son go the prior day. Promising to find Garmadon and refocus him, Harumi stormed off, all while Lloyd and the others continued to hide out in the docks, desperate for a fighting chance against the forces of evil. By sunset in the realm of Oni and Dragon, Cole begged Wu to come clean and tell Faith the truth that he had no idea where the dragon armor was. But the young Wu was insecure and ashamed, the lessons of the years still not permanent in his mind, instead doubling down as he sent them deeper into the unknown regions of the realm. Chased by Jetjack and her hunter forces, the heroes barely managed to escape with the hunters right on their trail, unaware that they were secretly being tracked, and their every move was being watched by the Baron. As night fell and the moon illuminated the Forsaken Realm, the group came to a stop at an eerie bastion. A massive fence with dragon skulls mounted on stakes, marking a territory line between the Oni and the dragon in a grisly display of power. But with the hunters on their heels and Wu continuing to lead them astray, the ninja and Faith were forced to venture past this eerie sight and enter the territory of the Oni, where no dragon hunter had stepped before except for Iron Baron, who claimed he had been the only one to make it out alive after all his comrades had allegedly been killed by the Oni. A cold breeze swept through the wreckage of the Temple of Resurrection back in the realm of Ninjago, where it was also nightfall, and Emperor Garmadon stood, conflicted, in the place where he had been brought back from the departed realm. Admitting to Harumi that he was frustrated with the fact that he had chosen to let Lloyd go, he explained to her the true reason why he wanted to seize control of Ninjago. For in the departed realm, he had seen some terrible things, dark things, fallen Oni from eons ago, who, if unleashed, would threaten his father's realm and would seek to plunge it into despair, darkness, and pure evil. Resolving to ensure Ninjago was protected and united under the iron fist of a ruthless emperor when the time came to finally face the Oni, Garmadon admitted that his only weakness was his son, to which Harumi declared that, in a twisted sense, she was his daughter, and he needed only to care for one child, her, not Lloyd. And after a moment of hesitation, the King of Shadows dubbed Harumi as his only child, his daughter, and returned to Borg Tower with a deepened relationship with the Dark Princess. In the first realm, the ninja, Faith, and Wu had made their way to an imposing fortress, blocking out the stars in the dead of night, old stronghold of the Oni. Quickly realizing that Iron Baron had lied and all the Oni were long gone, Faith erupted in anger, compounded by Wu's admission that he had also lied, and he had no idea where the dragon armor was. But as the ninja explored the eerie, deserted castle, they came upon a massive map to the secret hiding spot of the dragon armor. And while Wu had learned his lesson to remain truthful, even when the truth hurt, he had inadvertently led them to their first real clue. And this time, it was their turn to hunt for the first Spinjitzu Master's dragon armor. And in Ninjago, Garmadon began to tighten his fist, squeezing the city as raids through the streets grew more and more brutal, Harumi personally overseeing the city patrols as they made their way to the docks, and Lloyd was forced to give away his hiding spot, revealing himself as the Green Ninja, and finally taking a stand and changing up their strategy. Instead of fighting the Sons of Garmadon one-on-one, Lloyd opted to lure their forces apart, striking from the shadows and picking them off one by one in the winding alleys and canals, until Harumi realized she was all alone. Declaring that those who cannot change anything, Lloyd emerged from the shadows, his friends surrounding Harumi as they gained their first real victory over Garmadon, and captured his false daughter. Chapter 4: Reign of the Colossus. Harumi was captured, the Oni mask of hatred was in their control, and the resistance, no matter how meager, had the upper hand on Garmadon's dark forces. While the heroes debated on what to do with her, for it was unlikely that Garmadon would trade their friends for her, Harumi began to gloat in the background, saying it was only a matter of time before her own generals found her, for her forces had been to their secret warehouse before. Tempted by the Oni mask of hatred, which they had recovered from Harumi, Lloyd had the choice to use its forbidden power against his father, but instead chose to rise above his anger, throwing the mask to the ground and sensing that Harumi had let herself be captured, in the hopes that Lloyd would succumb to his Oni side. With the ruse discovered, Harumi broke her facade, screaming that there would be no happy ending to this story, and even if they were to defeat Garmadon, Lloyd's relationship with his father would always be marred. And she had won. In the first realm, the dragon hunters were days behind the ninja, coming upon the ominous dragon head spikes, but being forced by Iron Baron to continue the chase and never let up until their quarry had been hunted down. Anxious but unwilling to disobey their leader, the crestfallen hunters slowly crossed the line into Oni territory, and grew ever closer to the ninja who had stopped to camp and train. As Faith insisted that they learn the tools of the dragon hunters and train with her chain launchers, Kai, Jay, Zane, Cole, and Wu took up arms, each ninja learning to grapple and hook the chains around a target. Until Wu grew frustrated at his failures, needing a pep talk from Kai to never quit and push through his anger, just as Master Wu had once taught Kai himself years ago. While Zane was a natural, the rest of the ninja took their time to master the chains, until it was time for a real test, a skirmish against the Stormbringer Lightning Dragon, where Wu would have to not only learn to chain and restrain the beast, but ride it as well. And so, in a heartfelt bonding exercise, Wu's former pupils became his teachers, encouraging their young master to keep trying and succeed in his goals. And, for just a moment, Wu soared through the air on the back of the dragon before careening off the side. He may not have been ready to ride Firstborn, but he was well on his way to becoming a true dragon rider. Back in Ninjago, Lloyd, Skylar, and Mistake drafted a master plan to get close to Garmadon to bring his Stone Titan down. Mistake would use her shape-shifting powers to disguise herself as Harumi, who would then pretend to have captured Skylar, just to bring the Master of Amber close to Garmadon, where she could temporarily absorb his power, and use it to control the Oni Titan. Emboldened with their new plan, the heroes gloated in front of Harumi, declaring that she had lost, but were unaware that the Dark Princess had already identified their weak link in the form of Dareth, and was planning to use him to escape once the rest had left. Breaking free and tying up Dareth in her place, Harumi rushed to Borg Tower, just as Mistake and Skylar arrived at the top floor, and Skylar came closer and closer to touching Garmadon. As the false Harumi announced that she had captured Skylar, the Sons of Garmadon were suspicious as to why she had not reminded Garmadon that Skylar could absorb elemental power, and their suspicions were confirmed when, standing before them, the real Harumi arrived, and the ruse was up. Elsewhere in the realm of Oni and Dragon, a chase began in the desert, Iron Baron demanding his hunters to bring him heavy metal alive, but kill the rest of the ninja. Racing through tunnels and over sand dunes, the ninja fought to beat back the assembled hunters, Jetjack shocked that heavy metal was secretly a woman like her, to which Faith replied that they were not alike, for she could think for herself and see that Iron Baron was deceiving them. There were no Oni in the land supposedly infested with the dark creatures. As the race continued and helicopters swooped in to capture Faith, the former hunter made a calculated sacrifice, splitting the diesel knot to allow the ninja to escape, but getting captured in the process. Atop Borg Tower, a showdown of Oni versus Oni was about to begin. As Garmadon realized Mistake was secretly an Oni in disguise, he demanded that she reveal her true demonic nature and reveal her dark powers to her comrades. Chanting an ancient demonic tongue and cackling with glee, Mistake finally had the chance to showcase the full might of the Oni, as a black cloud of smoke and ash billowed up around her, engulfing Harumi, the Sons of Garmadon generals, Skylar, and Garmadon in smoke, only for Mistake to emerge as a bestial, horned, monstrous entity, whose glowing purple eyes were fixed on Garmadon. As the two bringers of destruction battled, Mistake fighting to save Ninjago and the realm she had grown to call home, the demons found themselves evenly matched, unable to fully defeat the other as they clashed atop the twisted spire. But as Mistake summoned all her might to generate a massive smokescreen to ensnare Garmadon, she disguised herself as Skylar to fool the evil Emperor. And the real Skylar snuck in from behind and copied his powers, achieving her goal as she fled from the tower. And with that, the battle was over almost as quickly as it had begun, and Mistake had completed her mission. Defeated, but victorious, Mistake could only scoff as Garmadon emerged from the darkness, killing her instantly while Skylar fled in horror. Back in the realm of Oni and Dragon, Wu urged his comrades to rescue Faith, temporarily abandoning their quest for the dragon armor as they rushed to free their imprisoned friend, who had been set up in a trap for the ninja and Wu. Playing right into Iron Baron's hand, Wu and his comrades were swiftly outnumbered and captured. But despite all this, doubt began to grow in the minds of the hunters, for Faith began to explain that Iron Baron had lied about the Oni, and even possibly killed his own allies and framed it on the Oni just to seize control of their tribe. As Baron quelled all thoughts of rebellion, threatening his own forces, he cruelly began to electrocute the ninja, inadvertently unlocking the depths of Wu's brain as all his memories of the past began to flood back, and Wu broke free, now sporting the beginnings of his classic beard, and challenged Iron Baron with a simple stick. Negotiating with the Baron, Wu agreed to help him find the dragon armor in exchange for letting his friends go back to Ninjago. And so, the two unlikely allies, Iron Baron and Wu, ventured off, leaving the ninja with the hunters and Faith. Ninjago City was on high alert. Returning to the resistance base and explaining that Mistake had given her life to the cause, Skylar realized that she had been followed by the Sons of Garmadon, forcing the resistance to retreat to a rooftop, where she wasted no time in harnessing Garmadon's power against him. Fist glowing with crackling purple energy, Skylar screamed out in pain as the overwhelming power of Garmadon's Oni blood surged through her, and in the distance, the stone Colossus began to shudder and shake, and the two wielders of Oni power began to fight over control of the Titan. As Skylar struggled and squirmed, she lost control of the Titan, and the massive behemoth began lumbering to the rooftop, about to flatten the building and shatter its foundations. Until Skylar, in a renewed surge of power, stopped Garmadon's attack, regaining control of the Oni Titan and sending it back to attack Garmadon, breaking through Kilo and Ultraviolet's defenses and shattering the Oni mask of deception. As the Titan began to scale Borg Tower, Harumi grew more and more worried, imploring her Emperor to leave and retreat. But when Garmadon refused, Harumi fled on her own, ziplining to a nearby building only to watch as both Skylar and Garmadon lost control of the Titan, sending the stone giant crashing to the ground. And as Garmadon slowly began to funnel his power through the rock, bringing back the Colossus, it shuddered and smashed into Harumi's building, where, to the princess's horror, the floor began to shake and the building started to crumble. Rushing inside the building and seeking the fire escape, Harumi was about to flee until she heard the terrified cries of a young boy and his family trying to access the elevators to no avail, and the memories of her own true parents began to flood back. In a moment of desperation and overwhelming guilt, Harumi rushed to help the family escape, ushering them to the fire escape, just before rubble blocked the exit, and Harumi found herself unable to leave the building, refusing to let another child turn out like her. And so, as the Oni Titan crashed against the toppling skyscraper, reducing its lower levels to rubble, Harumi could only watch and gasp as the building slowly collapsed. And as she locked eyes with Lloyd, the former couple shared a melancholy moment as the rubble caved in and Harumi crashed to the ground, killed in an instant by the battle between Garmadon and the Resistance. But death, so it seemed, was not the end for the Jade Princess, and sometimes an ending is really just a new beginning. Finding herself in an ethereal void, Harumi realized her soul was passing on to the departed realm, but something, or someone, was holding her back. And in this eerie purple void, the voice of the Overlord, pure entity of evil, echoed all around her. As the horrified Harumi looked on, a ball of plasm and crystalline energy approached her, rippling with the booming voice of the Dark Lord. As the Overlord explained that he had been watching her for some time, but she had chosen the wrong champion. She had placed her faith in Garmadon, but he had failed her, and Harumi was abandoned again. Simply calling himself the Crystal King, the Overlord offered Harumi a devil's bargain. Get a second chance at life, but dedicate the rest of her days to serving him. Or die and face eternal punishment and suffering in the emptiness of the departed realm. Realizing she had no choice, Harumi agreed to serve the Overlord, and in a flash of blinding light, her soul was restored to her body, and Harumi lived again. Eyes now glowing with eerie purple energy, Harumi found a mysterious purple crystal in her hand, physical manifestation of the Overlord. For whenever there is conflict or strife in Ninjago, the Overlord will always return. And this time, he was willing to bide his time, grow in power and forces, until the perfect time to strike back. Bidding Harumi to return to Primeval's Eye and place the crystal inside the old Oni temple, the Overlord and the newly resurrected princess ventured far from the city, unbeknownst to both Lloyd and Garmadon. And back on board Tower, the Dark Emperor was overwhelmed with grief and anger at the loss of Harumi. Crying out in pure fury and rage, he declared that Lloyd could have his city in ruins. Chapter 5: Destiny of the Green Ninja. Enraged and in grief over the apparent death of Harumi, Garmadon sent the Oni Titan directly at Lloyd, Dareth, Nia, and Skylar, whose eyes had begun to glow purple as her body became overtaken by Garmadon's power, and she fell into a deep sleep. Fleeing across the building rooftops and leaping across the city streets, Nia proposed the team leave the city until things calmed down, which Lloyd refused, swearing to fight harder than ever to protect his city, while Garmadon sent his Titan on a rampage through the streets, and the civilians looked to the sky in fear and terror. In the realm of Oni and dragons, Iron Baron and Wu grew closer and closer to the nest of Firstborn, all while discussing their morality and views on life. As the treacherous path resulted in Iron Baron nearly falling to his death, the villainous hunter was saved by Wu, who wanted to teach the fiend one last lesson. And back at the camp of the Dragon Hunters, the remaining hunters formerly loyal to Iron Baron decided to free the ninja and Faith. Now that the Baron was gone, they quickly realized they preferred it that way, and the group began planning a resistance of their own. Back in Ninjago City, as the 4 remaining resistance fighters fled on foot, they were confronted by Ultraviolet. Wielding the Mask of Hatred, she rushed at the heroes, Nia staying behind to fight her while the rest of the group rushed off on foot. And in a furious battle, Nia was injured but managed to blast back the crazed general with a spurt of water. And before Ultraviolet could finish her off, Lloyd smashed into her hardened stone body with their battle wagon, destroying the Mask of Hatred, but falling right into a Sons of Garmadon ambush. As Wu and Iron Baron continued their journey in the First Realm, they came upon a mysterious volcanic cave, surrounded by crackling lightning, rumbling mounds of earth, and glistening ice. Realizing that the very lair of the mother of all dragons was comprised of the elements themselves. Venturing deeper into the cavern, the pair encountered dozens of sleeping dragons, all curled up around a massive behemoth, the gargantuan firstborn dragon, larger than any other dragon seen before. And in the center of the lair sat the fabled golden dragon armor, glistening in the light. Rushing to procure the armor, Iron Baron seized the legendary golden breastplate and helmet, screaming at Firstborn to kill Wu, who had smartly held back. But when the great dragon failed to respond, Wu revealed that his students had taught him many lessons over his time growing up in the First Realm, from responsibility to confidence to even having a sense of humor. But Iron Baron had taught him a lesson as well. For from the maniacal villain, Wu had learned the power of lies, and deceived him into thinking the armor controlled Firstborn. In the days of old, the first Spinjitzu master had not forced Firstborn under his control. They worked together thanks to a mutual respect, and because the dragon sensed the goodness in Wu's father. And the powerless armor was nothing but a symbol of this relationship. Soon realizing he had made a grave mistake, Iron Baron quivered and shook, trembling as the massive reptilian head of the firstborn dragon slowly rose up and showered him in molten lava, ending the tyrannical rule of the Baron. And in a climactic ceremony, all the dragons awoke as Firstborn revealed the dragon armor to Wu. And as the young master donned the gleaming metallic armor, the dragons bowed. The son of the first Spinjitzu master had returned, and all the dragons roared as one. Blasting forth from their mounted lair, Firstborn and all the other dragons soared to the Dragon Hunter camp, the ninja cheering when they saw Wu proudly riding on the back of the majestic Dragon Queen. As the ninja bowed to the new Dragon Master, Wu in turn bowed to his own pupils, thanking them for the lessons they taught him, and the journey they had embarked on over the past few weeks. As the ninja reconciled with the remaining hunters, they offered for Faith to return to Ninjago with them. But the powerful warrior declined, instead choosing to step up and lead the former hunters into a bright future, where they would work together with the dragons instead of hunting them. And so, after an emotional goodbye, the ninja leapt up, soaring through the air on the backs of their mighty dragons. And as the creatures began to swirl through the sky, building up with speed and energy to generate an interdimensional portal to Ninjago, the ninja had finally made it back home, and their timing could not have been better. In Ninjago City, hope seemed lost. Nia was injured and Skylar was unconscious, and it was just Lloyd and Dareth, well, just Lloyd, versus the entire might of the Sons of Garmadon. But at the last second, the sky blazed with light, and hurtling through a portal emerged Wu, Kai, Zane, Jay, and Cole, each riding massive, powerful dragons that swooped down on the biker gang, freeing the remnants of the resistance and reuniting at last with their friends after so many weeks apart. But there was little time for a reunion, for at last, the resistance had the advantage, and they had the opportunity to take Garmadon by surprise. Aiding terrified civilians and battling the Sons of Garmadon, the ninja swept towards Borg Tower, even Dareth aiding in the resistance efforts while news of the ninja's return blared from every screen. In Cryptarium Prison, the captured resistance members were overjoyed to hear the news, Misako rallying the elemental masters together to break free from their chains, the fighters using all their powers and skills to free their allies, and together, the resistance made their last stand. As Firstborn soared towards Borg Tower on a direct course for Garmadon, who had fully embraced his Oni form, the rest of the ninja flew on their own dragons in a battle with the Colossus, fighting desperately to use their new skills as Dragon Hunter chain experts to take down the monster. And on the top of the tower, Wu and Lloyd faced off against Emperor Garmadon, who summoned 4 mighty crystalline blades with his Oni powers to fight them at once. Using his father's sword, Wu struggled as brother battled brother yet again, and the fight grew more and more intense. Condemning Garmadon for his actions, Wu revealed that this was all a distraction to keep Garmadon occupied, as the mighty Firstborn rose up and blasted Garmadon with all her might, only for the demonic Oni hybrid to shrug off the attack, releasing a shockwave of destructive energy, flinging Wu from the tower and injuring Firstborn, who leapt to save the young master, leaving only Lloyd to face his father alone. In the city streets and the skies above the city, the ninja fought to chain the Colossus and bring it down, Kai leaping onto the Stone Titan to bind and subdue it, as Garmadon engaged his son in battle on the tower, declaring that people don't change, they only reveal who they truly are. As the climactic showdown of father versus son continued, the ninja were about to lose to the Titan when the rest of the resistance appeared, the entire city emboldened by Lloyd's speech and working together to defeat the Colossus and bring it to its knees, ending the threat once and for all. But back at the tower, Lloyd realized that the more he fought his father, the more Garmadon grew in power. And so, he decided to adopt an old lesson his father once taught him years ago: the art of the silent fist. Dodging Garmadon's attacks and fighting without fighting, Lloyd simply repeated a mantra: "I cannot fight you, but I can resist you," as Garmadon fumed and raged, ordering his son to pick up arms and fight him. Hurling blasts of glowing purple energy, Garmadon found his power fading, and as his element grew weaker, Lloyd grew ever stronger, until, in a flurry of flowing green energy, Lloyd's element returned to him. Eyes aglow with blinding green light, Lloyd stepped up and finally overcame the might of his father, who collapsed to the ground, defeated. As Emperor Garmadon's power vanished, the Oni Titan crumbled apart, Skylar awoke from her coma, and the resistance had finally won. And yet, on the top of the tower, Garmadon seemed oddly saddened and scared. Drawing his son close, the defeated Emperor ominously stated that their fight was not over, but it would be, for when they come, nothing would be left. Confused and bewildered at his father's words, Lloyd uneasily let him be led away to a supermax jail cell in Cryptarium Prison, freeing Ninjago from Garmadon's reign. but unsure of what future threats may lay on the horizon. With the battle over, Lloyd returned to the site of Harumi's demise. As emergency crews swept the city, he dug desperately through the rubble, trying to save Harumi, but she was long gone. Days later, as the ninja celebrated and cleaned up the royal palace, Wu had finally aged back into his old self, and a party was held in the streets for the heroic ninja who had liberated the city once again. As Skylar, Pixel, and Dareth joined the ninja in their party, and Cole enjoyed a slice of cake, all was well in Ninjago, and fireworks echoed across the skies. But as day turned to night, Firstborn bid Wu farewell as she returned to the first realm, bringing her dragons back home as the fight concluded. As Lloyd approached Wu, he asked him if they had encountered any Oni in the realm of Oni and Dragon, to which Wu responded that they had all been long gone. To where, he did not know. Unsettled with this revelation, Lloyd pondered if the Oni truly were coming, and if his father was right to be afraid. And deep within the jungles of Primeval's Eye, in the ancient Oni temple, the resurrected Harumi made her way to the center chamber. Placing the Overlord's crystal in the pedestal, she watched as rippling shockwaves blasted through the ancient stone structure, purple crystals erupting from the ground as the room was transformed before her very eyes. And appearing before her was the silhouette of the dreaded Overlord, bringer of darkness. Initially terrified and shocked, Harumi refused to do his bidding any further, for the Overlord represented everything she hated and fought against. But the Dark Lord explained that the balance between light and dark would mean there would always be conflict, and the only way to end conflict, pain, and suffering would be to destroy that balance, for only then would there be peace in the dark. Conflicted, but realizing she had little choice, Harumi accepted the Overlord's terms, bowing to her nude golden master as he set into motion a master plan to strike back against the ninja. But that is a tale for another day. And with that, thus ends this episode of Ninjago Retold. Stay tuned in 2 weeks for episode 13, March of the Oni.
Alright, and with that, we have summed up this latest episode of Ninjago Retold. Thank you all so much for watching this series, and I really do appreciate the support of this very long and time-consuming effort. Of course, let me know down in the comments below if you have any questions about the timeline or concerns. I definitely want to be able to answer as many questions as possible, so I will be checking the comments in case anyone is confused. Now, I also want to know, what do you think of the particular topics covered in this video? Did you like the season or the special that it covered? What do you think of the storyline and media? And what are your favorite parts of what we just covered? With that, we've summed up this massive video, and thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, be sure to stay tuned every 2 weeks for a brand new Ninjago Retold video coming very, very soon. Thanks so much, and bye for now.